Well, hello everybody. I think we are all here.
Yes, so we can start.
Yes, apart from I don't see Spain.
Spain is coming. Spain is coming.
Spain is coming.
It's late lunch in Spain. No, it's usual. So a very brief introduction. The idea is that we have a first part of our module on organic resource and needs. And for that, we are welcoming Denis Lairon, that will be our speaker today. Hello, Denis. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will have also a speech, an introduction speech on one aspect from Clara, unusual for your project coordinator that will be also a guest speaker today. It's the first part of this webinar on and module, and we will have a second part next month with Lise Pujos from EcoCert, that will come more on canteen and on certification, technical certification aspect. So we think that it's a big topic. We discuss it a lot, and therefore it was worth to have two webinars on that. Technicalities, we ask you to connect on the Miro. You received a mail for that, and we will have what is apparently the translation in English, a walking debate. That doesn't mean that you have to walk, but that you will have to walk on Miro. Are you all on Miro? You really need to be connected on a second window. It's not an idea of sharing the frame. You will have to act on this board. I see quite 6%, 7%. So you seem to be all here. So you see there are hidden stuff that we will uncover very soon, but you see your names kindly written by Clara on post-it, and you will have just to use that. For example, if I am Alessia, I will move that post-it, and this will be my position. You see here, if I agree, I will be more on that side. If I agree very much, I will be on that side. If I am unsure, if I totally disagree, I will be on that side, and we will. So a very quick your posture, and this will be give a rhythm for all the different parts of the speech today. Questions on that? Things that I missed, Clara, Thibault?
I think no, nothing particularly comes to my mind now. Okay,
so shall we start each time with two questions? The first one that just appeared on your screen. To fight climate change, is better to buy food from a local producer than buying from an organic producer that comes from far away. So please take your post-it and put it where you think it's important. Did you agree or disagree on that? Are you all comfortable with Miro? Did you find yourself?
I'm a bit lost on the table.
You are lost. It's like Alessia. It's like a PowerPoint. You're really. So if I take you, where do you want to be, Alessia? Do you agree or disagree with that?
I would like to find the right place where you are, because it's a big table and
I will call everybody near me. So normally now you should
yes,
be.
I see something different. Okay.
Okay. You're for the moment, Alessia, you're in the middle.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
So
You have
to say I agree.
So I see a lot of people who are not taking part here. Gérard and David and Florence and Stéphane and François. Oh, yes.
I'm fine.
Hey, guys, it's a walking debate. Huh? It's not a sleeping debate. Huh?
I made it.
Okay, great. David is.
Excusez-moi, mais la connexion est vraiment très mauvaise. Donc, j'entends la moitié des mots. Je suis vraiment avec une connexion très mauvaise. J'essaie.
On t'entend bien, Florence. Hein?
Oui, pourtant, on entend bien.
Okay, let's open this. So I see that there are Beata and Natalia. What are you doing? Okay.
Excuse me, but I don't see the board. It's in discussion. It's in reaction.
It's the board is. I will send you again the link to the board.
I just sent it again.
You send it again in the chat.
In the chat, you can find
in the chat. You click on it. You don't have to register anything. You just it will open a new window on your browser.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Also, if you want to share, I don't know.
Do you want me to share the screen?
Maybe so we can all see it. Thank you.
Is it okay? You see it now? Because I'm working in a strange configuration, so it's okay? You see it?
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so it's a pretty balance. Huh? Some agree and some disagree here. I saw that this was a difficult situation. So, Angel, can I give you the floor? Why do you agree with that point? Can you just explain us in one sentence, because we have a short time? Angels, do you hear me? No, we hear someone else, but not Angels. Okay, so Alessia, I know that you are here. You totally agree with this question. Can you tell us why?
Yes, the main reason is to preserve lands from construction. So in the first moment, for me, it's important to have food produced nearby villages, houses. Okay. And in the second moment, the system can be changed. But in the first moment, food is produced next to properties.
But that's for your own. Okay, that's. I mean, it's a walking debate. The rules is that we don't debate the debate. Davide, you totally disagree. Why?
No, I'm agree with the.
No, so there are two David. There is one David Zari.
Yeah, actually, from a purely environmental impact perspective, the costs, the environmental costs of transportation is really low. So if we compare the environmental cost of an organic production that comes from afar and not organic production, but from a local agriculture, the scientific evidence says that the organic one that comes from afar is lower in the environmental footprint. Of course, I mean, we must refer just to climate change, because there's also social and other concerns that that might be taken into account. But anyway, from an environmental perspective, organic is scientifically better.
Okay, thank you. I open the second question, and we will start the first part of a talk. So you move yourself again. The second affirmation. If you have people talking in your office and you are not talking, can you mute yourself?
Yes.
Thank you. The organic certification system tends to reduce biodiversity. Do you agree or disagree? So take again your Alessia, Beata, you have to move, to walk to the second question.
In the case, I don't know, can I put my name in the center?
In the middle, in the middle.
The middle?
In the middle. Okay, so Beata, you agree with that. Can you tell us why? And Natalia, you're both together. You can join your voice in this disagreement.
I think the organic certification tends to reduce biodiversity because the products are the same. I mean, the quality and how they look. So for me, it's not changed to the product who looks or tastes different.
Okay, thank you.
And it's more healthy for people.
Okay, then Stéphane, you totally disagree? Stéphane, can you hear me? Stéphane is not there. Stéphane, can you tell us why?
Sorry. No, in fact, it's a mistake.
Okay, it's a mistake.
It's
okay.
exactly the opposite.
Okay, okay, thank you. I leave the floor to, I stop sharing the screen. I leave the floor to Clara. So now we will have to speed up this question to keep time because Denis is disappearing in an hour.
Can I add something?
Hello, yes.
François?
Yes, yes.
On the two questions, so hello, my name is David. I'm also a local producer in Belgium, and for organic production, it's very important to know where it is a product because the organic system in Europe is completely different from it of China or Latin America. So
okay,
it's why I put my my answer on the left.
Okay, okay, thank you. So let's hear what Clara prepares and then Denis as answers to this debate.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you, Francois. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Great. So thanks for having participated to this wonderful walking debate. Before answering to these two questions, or trying to give an answer to these two questions, I would just like to refresh what do we mean by organic agriculture. So organic agriculture is a production system that aims to sustain the health of soil, ecosystems, and people. And it raised in the 50s as a counter movement to the industrialization of agriculture. And it gained a European regulatory framework in 1991, which certifies organic product with the Euro leaf, which is the green leaf that you can see here on the bottom right of the diapo. And this certifies that the product has been produced in line with the core principles of organic farming, which are health, ecology, fairness, and care. So it rules the way these products are produced and processed. So here for the first answer, to fight climate change, is it better to buy food from a local producer than buying food from an organic producer that comes from far away? In order to give evidence to this, I want to show you the impact of the overall greenhouse emission of the agricultural sector that you can see in the graph on the left. And I think what's important noticing is that only 20% of the impact of the environmental cost that Davide was mentioning of the agricultural products are related to other factors, which include the transport, while the 80% of the impact is related to the techniques of production, including the emissions emitted by the soils, by the management of manure, and by the fermentation, the production of methane in the stomach of cattle. So what I wanted to point out as well by introducing nitroxous oxide N2O that you can see here, and CH4, which is methane, is that we are used to hear about CO2 as a greenhouse emission, but agriculture is responsible for the emission of other two important greenhouse gases, which are indeed nitroxous oxide and methane, which are in some cases even more impactful on climate and environment than CO2. Indeed, nitroxous oxide, for instance, has 300 times more impact on the environment than CO2, and agriculture is responsible for the 86% of the production of this gas. And as it can be seen in the scheme on the right, where 3 indicates nitroxous oxide and 2 methane, you can see that since the beginning of the industrialization of agriculture, the emission of these gases raised significantly. So what is the link between the emission of these two gases and the industrialization of agriculture is the fact that nitroxous oxide is mainly related to the production and the use of synthetic and mineral nitrogen fertilizers. So the more the soil is stressed with input in terms of nitrogen, which increases the production of plants, the highest is the production of nitroxous oxide. And methane is mainly comes mainly from the fermentation in the stomach of ruminants, cattle, and poor manure management. So intensive breeding creates an increase in methane emission, and conventional agriculture as well, through invasive techniques, generates a poor soil structure which is not able to stock the carbon. And so why organic can be the solution to this, because banning the use of nitrogen fertilizers, it reduces the losses of nutrients, and nitrous oxide pollution is way reduced. Its practices improve soil carbon sequestration through keeping the soil covered, increasing crop diversity, composting, and it also minimizes the energy consumption per unit of land, eliminating the energy required to manufacture fertilizers. And these are just some of the answers. To conclude on this, I want to show you this other, this other scheme from Oxford University, which shows the footprint per category of product, and it illustrates the impact of each phase throughout the supply chain. And it can be seen that the green phase and the which represent the land use change and the farm practices impact the main has the highest impact in terms of greenhouse emission, while transport, as you can see, it's just the red little square that you can see, has a really limited impact when we have to look at the overall impact. So if we need to make a choice, it's more impactful in terms of environmental cost to choose for a production technique that could affect the land use change and the farming technique rather than transport. Another important thing to note is the choice of products, so the importance of diet. So plant-based products are from 10 to 15 times less harmful than animal products. But then Denis will go more in detail on that. So we come to the second question. There are many things to say, but short time. So question 2 is organic certification system tends to reduce biodiversity. I have to say no. So we start from the first page of the regulation of organic farming already, like the first 3 lines state that organic farming aim at contributing to the production of environment, to maintain long-term fertility of soils, and to contribute to a high level of biodiversity. In fact, numerous studies on temperate arable lands demonstrated that organic production delivers in mean 30% more biodiversity, both in terms of abundance of species and in terms of richness of biodiversity, both for plants, but as well for soil microbial, birds, insects, and pollinators. And how is organic farming promoting all this? Because banning fertilizer avoid direct toxic impacts on non-targeted organisms, for instance, because it promotes mixed farming systems and rotation and the introduction of leguminous crops that fix nitrogen on the soil, and it reduces the impact and the contamination of the water basins. And those are just few examples. But so when we speak about biodiversity, and here I go back to the aspect of climate. So biodiversity is making an environment, an ecosystem, the most various possible. And this makes an ecosystem resilient when there are several changes also in terms of climate. So not only we have seen how organic farming can have a climate mitigation effect in terms of reducing greenhouse emissions, but it also have a climate adaptation effect and makes the environment more resilient. So those are my answers to the 2 questions. So, well, I hope I convinced you. And I leave the floor to Denis to complement on what I've said. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Denis, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen. Do you see it? Do you see it?
Yes, perfect, Denis.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just to present myself, I am Emeritus Research Director at the INSERM, that's the National Institute for Health and Medical Research. I am a biochemist and nutritionist. And I've been working during my career about the relationship between food, diet, and health in humans. And during the last 10 years, I have moved to work on sustainable diet and impact on health and also on the planet, and especially with a focus on organic diet and organic food system. So that way I am a member of the Organic Food System Program Network. It is a worldwide network linked to IFOAM with academics and local people working on local projects. And this is one action within the United Nations Sustainable Food System Consortium. And I have no conflict of interest. Sometimes it is important to say that. So just to come back to some global things, but I think to start it is important. First, it is a definition of the sustainable food system that was raised within the UN system by FAO and UNEP a few years ago, clearly telling the direction we need to go. And as you have seen, the four keywords for organics completely fit with this definition, you know, ecology, health, care, and ethics. But this is a definition from the UN system, and it is the new concept worldwide now. It is very important to have this in mind. And second, it is a definition of sustainable diets. This definition was raised in 2010 in Rome, hosted by FAO, and I took part to this international consensus definition. And as you can see also, if you look, if you compare with the keywords of the organic system, we can see very quickly that there is a lot of common things: low environmental impact, contribute to food and nutrition security, to health for present and future generation, to respect biodiversity, ecosystems, culture, to have accessibility, physically or economically, have a nutrition adequate diet, a safe diet, and a healthy diet. So as you can see, that's the new direction now, and worldwide, this should be taken into account when we are discussing now on diet. So that means that we have 3 pillars to put in practice that, to have a sustainable food production, to have a very high food quality of food produced, and to have a sustainable food consumption pattern in any part of the world. So I skip that because just to make a summary of finding we made in a publication 2 years ago in the most important nutrition journal in the world. We are working with a very large cohort in France of adults. This data has been obtained on about 30,000 people in France, where we made 5 groups, Q1 from up to Q5 for organic consumption. Here you have no consumption of organic food. Here you have about 60–65% as a mean of organic foods in the diet. And we calculated the greenhouse gas emission, use of energy to produce, and land use to produce. Organic diet here, which is basically a plant-based diet, compared to no organic from people which are mostly omnivorous. And you have the trend, it is clearly a market trend, a reduced trend. for all items, and especially for emission of greenhouse gas with minus 37% of reduction if you compare the two extremes. So this was the first study clearly identifying the beneficial impact of organic food consumption and diet, which is different from the diet of non-organic consumers. So just to finish, if you look carefully at the different items related to sustainability, it is clear that the present system is not sustainable. But we observe a societal trend very strong, especially in industrialized countries, for an increase in the consumption of organic foods. And in countries where we're engaged in the organic transition, in fact, due to poverty, most of agriculture is not intensive and chemically based, but it is an agriculture based on very low input strategy. So this raises the question: does organic production and consumption could fit better the sustainable diet concept? Right. Just to introduce the next part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Denis. I will, let's come back to the Miro and open the questions for the next section. So it's question number 3. So please place yourself. We are a bit late, so I will go. Please go quick on that. Organic certification guarantees a better nutritional quality. Do you agree or disagree? Strong consensus for agreement. And suddenly Davide Zari is moving the consensus. Okay, I don't think that there is that much to discuss since we are in a hurry. I open the second question of that section. Organic consumer, let me just make a snap screenshot of that. And organic consumers eat the same as before, but in organic form. So is it clear here? Is that when you switch to organic, you eat the same things, but in organic? Do you agree or disagree with that? Okay. So so Clara, you seem to agree with that. Can you tell us why? Clara has delivered her speech and she's gone.
No, I'm here. I think it depends on the type of diet you are starting from in terms of consumption. So I wouldn't surely state that if I'm starting as a vegetarian, for instance, which is not eating organic, that my diet would change significantly.
Okay.
So that's why I'm there.
Okay. And Davide Arcadipane, you seem to agree on that. I don't give you the floor for by chance.
Do you see me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
You disagree?
Yeah, because I think that organic consumer probably in the first time are convinced to eat the same thing, but in organic form. And then they understand that they can't, they can find the same food at the same time for classical form. So they have to change the way of they feed, and that's why I disagree.
Okay, thank you. Let's go back to Denis and has prepared some answers on that.
Yeah, so just to make a brief summary of what we know on a scientific basis regarding the quality of organic foods and the behavior of the organic food consumers. So this is a table summarizing everything we know regarding the quality of organic food in terms of nutrient content when compared to conventional foods by researchers. Here, that's a report from France 20 years ago. I coordinated this report. This one was 10 years later in Great Britain. And here are the list of the new paper published since. As you can see, there are a lot of better content in organic foods, especially for dry matter in vegetables, for magnesium content, depending on the study for iron or for zinc. There is a huge consensus on difference for vitamin C and also all other antioxidants we can find in plant foods. And for animal products, there is much more polyunsaturated fatty acids that are encouraged by nutritionists, and especially omega-3 fatty acid, with very big difference in milk and dairies and in meat products. And finally, for two compounds we need to avoid, it's nitrate in vegetable. So there is much less nitrate accumulated in vegetable under organic system. And also there is less cadmium, heavy metal, very toxic, with less in cereals. So, but if you go to more practical things, in fact, we have a big choice in terms of cultivars for every species. If you look at apple, we have more than several hundred or 1,000 varieties of apple. We have also a lot of different breeds for cattle, for instance. And so we have a very big margin of progress. If you look carefully at the difference in terms of nutrient content linked to the varieties and the breeds. This has been completely forgotten up to now. Another point is that due to the absence of pesticide spray, you can keep the skin, especially for fruits. And in fact, half of the content of antioxidants in fruits are in the skin. That means that if you need to peel your skin, you lost half of the antioxidant content. You are just a comparison we published in a book. Here you have a traditional variety for apple with a very high content in vitamin C. If you peel the skin, you reduce by half. But if you look at another variety, the golden, which is one of the most produced because the yields are the highest, you have 3 times less vitamin C for a given amount of apple. And of course, if you peel it, you reduce by half. So compare an organic traditional variety with this level of vitamin C with a conventional golden that you have peeled. It is a dramatic difference in terms of intake of vitamin C or any other antioxidants. It is the same for cereals. Cereals are very rich, as all seeds, rich in everything, in fiber, in minerals, in vitamins, in proteins, in antioxidants. If you refine the grain to make white flour, you will lose 3/4 of all these very important compounds. One limitation is that if you are using unrefined grains, you will have a lot of fiber, which make complex with calcium, iron, magnesium, and zinc, and limit the absorption by the small intestine. The good news that there is a solution to compensate that. If you are making bread with yeast, which is conventional, you will have an alcoholic fermentation. It is the same yeast as to make beer, you know? So it produces alcohol, which is eliminated during cooking. This will never change, no change. This will induce no change for the bioavailability of these minerals. But in contrast, if you are using natural sourdough, which is a mix of different yeast and different microorganisms, especially lactic fermentation, you will reduce the pH, the acidity. You will increase the acidity in the dough. This will activate an enzyme that will cleave phytic acid, which complex the minerals. And if you are using this type of bread, the amount of this mineral at the beginning, which is very high, but a little bit complex, will be released and be absorbable by your intestine. It is very important also in terms of practice. So now coming to organic food consumer. Up to now, we had very little information from big studies regarding the behavior and the consumption of organic food consumers. But from a diet sustainability and public health point of view, it is extremely important to have more information about that. So with my colleague, we decided to raise a very big research project with a cohort to provide some scientific evidence. In fact, this project has been called BioNutrinet, and it is using the Nutrient Santé cohort. It is one of the biggest adult cohorts in the world, and especially in France, started in 2009. We have about 170,000 adults in France in this cohort, and everything is made through an internet interface to collect every information we need about lifestyle, all aspects of people, and especially very detailed questionnaire about food consumption, the share of organic food within the diet. We are also able to collect 20,000 blood and urine samples. So we made a specific questionnaire in order to record with the most possible accuracy the food consumption of people for 16 different food groups with 3 options at the beginning, and then because we got a very big financing by the Ministry of Research, we are able to make another questionnaire with 5 options from always up to from 0 up to always. We quantified that from 0 to 100%, and it was based on the consumption of 264 food items. We published more than 20 publications since 2016. So just to make a summary regarding the food consumption and lifestyle, you see the number of people for the study. It is very impressive indeed. So these people have a higher education level, a higher physical activity, less smoking, and less very small low income. That's the socio-demographic characteristic of organic food consumers. If you look at dietary intakes, during repeated studies, we clearly demonstrated that as soon as you increase the consumption of organic foods, you increase the intake of all foods of plant origin, and at the same time, you decrease the consumption of most animal food. So clearly, the first conclusion, it is a very important one, that organic consumers have not the conventional diet, they have a plant-based diet. If you calculate the nutritional quality of this diet with two different scores, you conclude that the nutritional quality of this diet is better. Just an example, if you have the 5 group, no organic food consumption, about 70% of food from organic origin, and you see the decrease in the marked decrease in milk and dairies, in meat and processed meat, but no change for seafood and eggs. On the contrary, you have all vegetable group that increase markedly. So what about the relationship between this organic food consumption and pathologies? We have made several studies on that. Just to make a summary, the first study in 62,000 people followed during more than 3 years. We calculated the rate of overweight or obesity in 4 groups of people with conventional diet here in gray, and most organic food in green. As you can see, there is evidence of the reduction in the rate of overweight and obesity in people having an organic diet. If you compare the two extremes, it is a reduction by 23% for overweight and a reduction by 31% of the risk to get an obesity or overweight in 3 years. It is a marked public health impact. The good news is that comparable data have been found in Germany, in another study in France and USA. So the next step after obesity is to gain some risk factor for cardiovascular disease linked to glucose metabolism, lipid metabolism, hypertension. This is called the metabolic syndrome. 20% of the population has this syndrome now in France and in industrialized countries. We compare 3 groups because we need to have a blood sample to make the calculation. Here you have the no consumer of organic food, like conventional. Here you have the highest consumers of organic food. We found a reduction by 31% of the risk to have a metabolic syndrome in both gender if you are a regular consumer of organic foods. The next study, of course, was on type 2 diabetes, one of the main pathology in our countries. We were working on more than 30,000 people, with a majority of women and a mean age of 50 years. We followed people during 4 years. We identified this number of cases of new cases of type 2 diabetes. And when comparing the group with the highest organic consumption with no organic food consumption, we observed a reduction by 35% of the risk of developing a type 2 diabetes in 4 years, which is a very impressive also reduction. Of course, in all this data obtained regarding pathologies, of course, we compare based on the consumption of organic foods, but of course, we are all using all other factors that could influence the data in the statistical model, as it is done by all epidemiological researchers in the world. So it is an effect of organic food consumption strictly. This has been confirmed in another studies, only other one in 2010 in the USA, with a reduction by 20 or 24% of the risk of type 2 diabetes for high consumers of organic food in the States. Finally, we looked at cancers. We are able to work on more than 70,000 people with a mean age of 44 years. We compare no organic consumption in 4 groups with a highest consumption of organic food, here about 65%. Of course, all the models are adjusted on other confounding factors, and we observe a reduction by 25% of the risk of having a new cancer in less than 5 years. In details, for 3 types of cancer, we find very significant and impressive difference. Minus 34% for postmenopausal cancer in women, and in the 2 sexes, minus 80% for lymphomas, non-Hodgkin or other lymphomas. So these are very impressive results that were published in one of the most important medical scientific journals in the world. So I think I made this summary in order to give you the sounded information regarding what the researchers observed in terms of organic food consumers.
Thank you, Denis. We come back. We are a little bit late, but we are running. Thank you. We'll come back to the Miro, and there is only one question on that. Can you move yourself and not move, please, the questions? On the next section, there is no evidence that eating organic is better for your health. Well, that's a bit late. It's coming, this question, after what Denis has just said. So I'm not so sure that there is a clear synchronization here in our organization. I will profit from that to maybe regain some of the time. No, Denis, you want to say something?
No, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I should have spoken about health effect later on after the question. I'm sorry.
But you are so enthusiastic, Denis. That's great. That you're running before us. Okay. So let's go to the question 7 then. The residual pesticides level is calculated so that it doesn't harm human health in any kind of agriculture, conventional agriculture. I mean, the level of pesticides which is remaining in culture is not harmful. It has been calculated. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Does it mean, Stéphane, that you disagree a lot because you increase the size of your post-it, and that means that you
I disagree, yes, but I don't. It's difficult for me to manipulate
okay,
the mirror.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I will resize you up.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, a lot of disagreements here. Angels, why do you disagree? Can you just tell us? You are not able to talk, Angel? We don't hear you. I don't know if you have a problem with your mic. Davide, you seems to be in the middle.
Yeah.
What is your point of view on that?
As far as I know, the EFSA, the agency, the European agency, set the maximum levels for any chemicals and pesticides. So I mean, in order that they do not harm human health. But since I'm not a scientist, I stay in the middle, because I don't know if I'm just losing some pieces of the story.
You suspect that Denis has prepared a huge scientific answers with a lot of evidence on that. Okay, last question before giving back the floor to Denis. Eating organic reduce the breast cancer in menopausal women. So here again, we have some anticipated answers from Denis. So here it's not a walking debate, but it's more a quiz. Did you follow very well the previous slides or not? Be careful, Professor Denis will give you vote after that, if you followed well or not. Okay, so thank you for that. I will give you back the floor, Denis, but just to make sure we don't make mistakes you have still 2 sections or 1 section to talk?
2
sections, okay. So I leave you the floor now, and you can share your screen again. We just switch from Clara sharing and you sharing because of recording and making clear.
It is okay for you?
Please go.
Huh?
Yes.
You see my screen? Yeah?
No. You have to share your screen.
You don't see my screen?
No, I deactivated
you have to share it
before.
again because we Clara still use the screen sharing.
Oh. So what happens?
Yes, here we are. Thank you.
It's okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so in most of our studies, at the end of the discussion, we raise the hypothesis that a much reduced exposure to pesticide could explain mostly the difference we observed between organic food consumer and conventional one. So this is a very important question, and I will not have the same talk than the EFSA. But I am a scientist too, and I am an independent scientist with no conflict of interest. It is one big difference with the experts working for EFSA. We will come back to that in the discussion. So that's the data from the EFSA. Every 5 years, there is a European report about the content of pesticide residue in foods in Europe. All the data are coming from the different EU countries. The last report was published in 2017 on 84,000 samples of plant foods here. The conclusion is that 44% of all these plant foods are contaminated by quantifiable pesticide residue. 3% should not be sold, and almost 1/3 of the sample have multiple residue, which are increased compared to previous reports. If you look at organic plants, that's the first time in this report that organic plant foods are also studied. Only 6.5% of the organic sample showed the presence of quantifiable pesticide residue. You can compare 6.5 compared to 44. We have also the data from France on 3,400 samples. We got 48% with quantifiable pesticide in conventional foods, 27 with more than two residue. These data are very close to the European data. And here we have detail on different food products. And if you look at organic plant foods in France, there are only 1.9% of samples with quantifiable residues of pesticide, of chemical pesticide used in conventional agriculture. So the huge difference in terms of contamination is clear. Nobody can discuss that. This could be checked in humans. This is a summary of one of our study published in a scientific journal. We compare 150 organic consumers with 150 non-organic food consumers, the two extreme in our panel. The organic consumer had 67% of their food as organic. And these two pairs were completely matched for all other characteristics in the cohort. Okay? We collect the urines. We analyze the metabolite of organophosphorus pesticide here, or pyrethroid synthesis metabolite in urines that reflect directly the exposure to pesticide. You see the results. There is a significant reduction in the concentration of the metabolite of these two families of pesticide in organic consumers compared to conventional consumers. In fact, in the world, 4 other studies have been published in adults, 3 have been published in kids, showing exactly the same reduction, or more important reduction, when on organic food compared to conventional food. So there is a firm evidence that consuming organic foods much reduce your exposure to some pesticide. Another study has been performed only on glyphosate with the same data. So in fact, we have published 2 other studies with our cohort, just a summary of the study, but these are important summary. If you are eating more plant foods from conventional origin, that means highly contaminated by pesticide, likely, of course, it will increase your exposure to pesticide. But if you choose plant food raised by organic methods, even if it is only half of your foods, you will notably reduce your exposure. So that means that the solution, if you would like to reduce your exposure to pesticide and to have a diet that will preserve the planet, you need to increase plant foods, but to not increase your pesticide exposure and to reduce it, you need to have organic foods for that. That's the first evidence for that. And that it has been published in the top journal for nutrition in the world. We also made another very important thing is that in France, my institution, the National Institute for Health and Medical Research, made the first report in 2013, and then a new report released this year on the relationship between the exposure to pesticide and health. The report is a 600-page report with a check of everything published in the scientific literature. The conclusion of this report are, first, almost all people from studies are contaminated in their body by pesticide. In France, we have several studies on pregnant women, which are basically all contaminated by various pesticides during pregnancy. And the conclusion regarding the relationship with disease is that we have a lot of scientific data and evidence that there is a link between exposure as well professional or in population. There are a growing number of studies in population, even in kids in population, with a link with various cancer, especially lymphomas, brain tumor, Parkinson's disease, birth defects, autism, intelligence quotient decline, cognitive decline in elderly, occurrence of obesity and type 2 diabetes. Of course, the most concerned by these diseases are farmers, which are directly exposed. There are three very big cohort studies in the world regarding farmers, and the data are very clear, And more studies in population showing that. And I will show you. So this is one of the last studies we have published in the most important journal in the world for epidemiology. With our cohort, I just remind you that I showed before that post-menopausal women, which have most foods as organic, have a reduction by 34% of the risk to get a cancer of breast in 5 years. We tried this time to answer the question, are exposure to pesticides responsible for this difference? So we used the data regarding the contamination of foods with 25 different pesticide residue. This is a database raised at the EU level with millions of data and with data on conventional and on organic foods. We use a very sophisticated statistical method in order to find some association between some mixture of pesticide, because we are exposed to mixture, not to single pesticide, as EFSA is examining the risk. We are always exposed to mixture. So we look at this mixture based from 25 selected compounds. What's the result? The result is, if you have a very low exposure to synthetic pesticide mixed, we will have a reduction of breast cancer by 44%, which is a tremendous reduction in the risk, close to the reduction when you are eating organic. If you have the group with the highest exposure to synthetic pesticide mixed, a specific mix of synthetic pesticide, it was associated with an increase of 33% in the risk to get a risk cancer. And this risk was extremely elevated, 400%, if women in postmenopausal women are also overweight or obese. So you see the extremely important difference. This is due to the exposure to very low doses of pesticide due to food and only food. So I think it answers the discussion. EFSA is looking only at single substances. The data are basically only derived from laboratory animals, and these animals are have not the same metabolism as human. You know, they look basically at rather acute exposure to pesticide. For humans, you are exposed before birth. No, so it's completely different, and we are always exposed to mixed. We don't know anything about the toxicity of mixed, except few studies in laboratory animals, showing that even at very low doses, the so-called no effect dose of pesticide with a mix of 6 pesticides, you can induce a type of diabetes in rats. If you wait enough long time, that means about 6 months, which is generally never used for toxicological studies. So that's what I could say for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Denis. Clara, we are back to the last 2 questions on the Miro. Question 9, government cannot recommend the population to eat organic food. This is more a question of governance. Huh? Do you agree or disagree? In the sense that, is it possible? Does it already happen? Be careful, it's maybe a tricky negative affirmation. So if you agree they cannot recommend, or if you disagree, you think that they can recommend. We did not make it simple for the end of the webinar. Okay, so most of you are thinking that they can recommend in a certain way. Clara is alone thinking that they rather cannot recommend. Clara, I give you the floor for explaining your position.
No, I was in the wrong.
You're not. You're okay. So, Angels, I know that your mic is not working. Can you type us why you think it's, and I will read it for you in the chat. In the meantime, you type something. Alessia, why do you disagree with this affirmation?
I think government should recommend the population to eat organic food in order to increase the consumption of organic food and increase the demand and stimulate the offer. So I don't think they cannot recommend that.
Okay.
They have to inform the population about the risk.
Julien Chapeau is asking, Angels, you did not manage to write something. Julien, I read your comment. Is that possible? Is that possible to feed everybody right now with organic food? Is a question. Last, just to keep the time, and you know that sometimes it's a bit frustrating. This walking debate is not very well named, as it is not a debate. It's just we are taking different positions. Last question, last affirmation, focus on organic is a French specialty. So is it very, very French, and then that other people are in other countries are not so keen? That's why Denis and his laboratory had so much, such a bigger financing from the French government, or is it something? I'm joking, Denis, of course. Is it something that you can find a concern with other government? You see that we are here talking in the last part of the discourse about the governance and the way government are interfering and stimulating or not the use of organic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I will answer with my slides. I have few slides to answer.
Okay. So here there is more. Why do you think, Beata, it's a French, or Natalia? You always agree together. Huh? It's not because you're on the same behind the same computer that you should agree. Why do you think that it's a French specialty? Natalia, Beata, are you there?
Moment. Do you
Please.
think? Okay. We think the organic food is a French specialty because we went Mouans-Sartoux, yes, and we have a farm which is very popular in our city. It's good example and can show that French is most focused on organic food and provide a good and healthy vegetable and etc. to your schools.
Okay, so you think that in Poland, for example, it is less focused. Stefan, you disagree with that?
Yes, I think other countries like Germany, Belgium, Holland focused before France on the organic food. And when you walk now in supermarkets in France, for example, it's quite easy to find local food, but not organic food.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. We give you the floor. Oh, sorry, please.
When I talk about supermarkets, it's not in Paris. Huh?
Okay.
I'm talking from North France, in the countryside, for example.
Where it's less available. Okay.
Yeah.
It's Denis, last part. We are keeping the time to leave you at the right hour. You have to share. You have to share again your screen.
Yeah, it is a small part. Huh?
Okay.
Just to try to make a conclusion of the different aspects related to the question.
Share your screen, Denis. Sorry, okay. We cannot do it for you, or we.
Oh, sorry. It's surprising why it is not working.
It's maybe coming, or yeah, it's coming. It's just slow.
Yeah, it seems slow. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just to ask the last question. There is no French specificity. You know, as already said, we are very late in Europe for organic development. Now it is better because we have 10% of the agricultural land on organic status certified. Okay, but we are not the first one and it is still a very small part of the food consumed, and there is basically no support from the government to organic production. So to make an answer clear, so I think the situation is rather the same in a lot of countries. But we have good spots in France with people which are a pioneer in different aspects, and we are happy to be among them in terms of research. So just to make a summary of all the data we know based on science regarding organic food consumer, in general, that these people have a higher education level, more physical activity, less smoking, so clearly a more healthy lifestyle. They have also a healthier dietary pattern with more plant foods that better fit the recommendation and with the highest nutritional value. They are markedly less overweight and obese, with less cardiovascular risk, less type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. They have less contaminated by pesticide because their food are less contaminated by pesticide, and they have less impact on natural resources as agricultural land and energy and greenhouse gas emission. So clearly, if you come back to the definition I showed at the beginning of sustainable diet, clearly the organic food consumers have a better compliance with the sustainable diet concept raised by FAO and now as part of the UN One Health concept. What happened in France? In France, we have a national program for nutrition and health that is revised every 4 or 5 years. The last version has been published after the advice of the Higher Council for Public Health in France has been published in 2019. One part is dedicated to plant foods. The recommendation is to increase all plant food groups. It was the case before, but there is a very strong focus on that now. For all groups you can have from plant foods here, and especially also to recommend unrefined grain. In parallel, there is a marked reduction recommended for all animal foods. Only 2 portions of dairy and cheese per day, only 70 grams per day, and a marked reduction even for processed meat. Only plant oils are recommended for fats, and sugar and salt should be reduced. The third recommendation, which is directly in link with our results data, is that for all plant foods, conventional or highly contaminated by pesticide, the recommendation, the official recommendation, is to favor organic produce, plant food produce, to reduce the pressure of pesticide exposure. We have in a study published last year in Nature, one of the top scientific journals in the world, we made an evaluation by modeling of what could be the impact if all French people, we have worked on this number of people, adopt this new recommendation. That means, yeah, they will progressively reduce, and we have made five categories of reduction, of adhesion to the new recommendation. With dot red spot, it is the present situation, and with the green, it is the highest adherence. the full adherence to the new recommendation. You will reduce, of course, meat consumption, the meat and dairy consumption. You will increase all plant foods. You will increase at the same time the proportion of organic food in the diet, and you will reduce markedly the exposure to pesticide. Everything are scientific data. So this completely supports the rationale of this new recommendation, which basically are the only recommendation we can do now on a scientific basis, given all the information we have now. We have also made an evaluation of the impact. If all French people today adopt this new recommendation, you will save 35,000 deaths, and you should add the impact, the direct impact of reduction to pesticide exposure, which has not been calculated already. You will reduce the impact on resources and environment. And this will be obtained by a very slight increase in the cost. The increase for daily food is less than €1 per day to get all these advantages. So that raises other questions, but it is a data. And finally, another law. It is a law has been decided in 2018 regarding agriculture and food with new objective. The first objective is to reach 50% of the agricultural land as organic by the end of 2022, this year, to reach at least 50% of quality food in the public catering with a minimum of 20% of organic food. And also to recommend the experimentation of one vegetarian meal on a week basis in public catering. And I can assure that we are at 10% of land as organic now in France. We are far from this objective, but this objective is very popular now and is a very big success because in basically all cases, it is really a success, and kids and people really adopt the vegetarian meal without any problem. Finally, this is also one of the last papers we have published in Nature too. We made a modelization based on the present situation, which is here. Here you have a score that put together the use of land to produce the diet, the energy to produce the diet, and the greenhouse gas emission. Okay, it is a complex score for that. And we have looked at the possibility to maintain, to increase at maximum the nutritional quality of the diet, and to reduce the greenhouse gas emission and the impact on resources at the same time. So all these diets are very sounded in terms of nutrition. And here you have the percentage of organic food in the diet. At the present, we have a very high impact with a low organic food consumption. You know, we are here. And when you increase with a different scenario, you reduce the impact up to 90% reduction of all these impacts. You will maintain the nutritional quality of the diet and even increase compared to observed. And you will reach 90% of organic food in the diet. So that means, yes, it is possible to have this strong transition, you know. It is just a matter of political will, and also to support this new means of producing and this new means of consuming, because there are some additional costs, but there are also a reduction of very important other costs, like impact on environment and impact on health. Thank you.
Thank you, Denis. Thank you very much. You are perfectly on time. we keep you for some questions. I encourage you to type your question on the chat. We have David Dari who said that it's not a question but a reflection. The greatest issue around organic food is affordability. Oftentimes people cannot buy organic for its price. How can cities do to increase accessibility? This is one question. Julien Chapeau has one affirmation, not a question. Julien Chapeau has another point. I read all of you and I'll let you answer. Denis, if you just open the chat, you can read also the question. How can we raise awareness among the entire population and break out the elitism of the sector? People think it's not for them. You mean organic food, I guess?
Yes.
Please, Julien.
Yeah. Would you like an answer? Or?
Yeah.
So, in fact, all these questions are very good questions. You know, it is not a magic situation. You know, I am not saying it is possible, no problem, no. So basically all the information we have now in terms of science, in terms of possibility to develop organic agriculture in all parts of the world. In our international net, we have 80 partners all around the world. We know everywhere you can develop organic agriculture. We know that. And the yields are even higher than in conventional because these people are very poor. But of course, they need support. It is the same in Europe. If you don't support the farmers that want to make the transition, it is very difficult to make it. Because the market is not so organized as the conventional, because there are additional costs, at least during the transition. There is some reduction in yields. It is not, but all these aspects should be taken. And also there is a very big lack of research to support the alternative method to make agroecology and organic agriculture. Basically, there is no money invested in this research. If you compare to the huge amount of money that are used for decades to support the chemical agriculture, you know. So just the idea is, yes, it is possible, but now sounded political decision should be taken, not only local decision. Of course, we need to have both. Mouans-Sartoux is a pioneer in France. In 5 years, they came from 0 to 100% organic food in the canteens. And they raised a municipality farm. Okay, they are great, they were the first. And we have now a lot of other examples in France willing to do exactly the same. But we also need support at the national level. And by now, there is no support from the French government to organic agriculture development, basically, even in the new PAC, in the new common agriculture policy, despite the European Commission recommended at the end of the new CAP to reach 25% of agricultural land as organic and to reduce by 50% the use of pesticides. It was the first time that the European Commission recommended that in the initial document to launch the discussion about the new CAP. It is called From Farm to Fork report.
Some questions to take advantage of the presence of Denis for still some minutes.
Yeah, and just to add a point regarding the cost, because of course it is an important point. But we cannot continue to have the reasoning of cost is just what you pay when you buy foods. I already mentioned that, you know. If people in charge of decision, they should take the true cost approach. And the true cost approach is completely changing the way of looking at cost. Because if you increase the cost of your food, because farmers have a better income, it's very important if you would like to have to continue to have farmers. They need to have a sound income. That means the price should increase. It's normal, you know. But at the same time, if you use agroecology, you will reduce some cost, some true cost paid by the citizen, and it is not obviously more expensive in total. But they need to incorporate this sounded reasoning, you know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this will never end, and it will be very difficult to have a transition to a new way of producing, a new way of consuming, you know. Because of course, if you only add cost, it is not a solution for anybody and for in any cases. But you can play with a balance of increased cost, reduced cost to have a good situation.
If I may say, I'm very, I thank you again very much for your presentation, because I mean, we need this data, the kind of very scientific proof data, and in particular on this last point, which is, as I understood, partly in progress in your studies, is to include the indirect cost. Which is to say, in fact, for a government, it's not only a wise investment, but it's an economically sound investment, because it reduced the indirect costs, which we know are booming in health. Yeah. And that's very important to point as an argument at every level. I think, and I speak, of course, under your control, but at government level, but also at family level, because at family level, I mean, when you are buying cheap and bad food, you don't think that you are increasing your health. You are increasing your spending in trying to diet. You have a lot of bias that you have not. Maybe you don't directly include in your food budget, which is sociologically always reducing in the last decade, and a lot of are increasing. Clara is saying something. Clara. I think the organic products are underestimated in terms of health and environmental implication, and it is often considered as only as an added quality in terms of taste. Looking at the benefit as such a scientific way gives a clear overview of the real data.
Yeah, it's just it's just an observation, but actually I think really, like, if we need to build a discussion on the importance of organic farming, it's important to look at it in such a real concrete way, and touching the implication of health. I think it can be a really strong entry point in order to spread also sensibilization among civil society. When we are not able to look further than our personal dimension, and we are not able to conceive the implication in the long terms in terms of environment, touching the personal health dimension, I think it's really effective. So my question actually is, when do you diffuse, for instance, this document? Is there like a high return in terms of are they widely diffused, or there are many interests that hide behind the diffusion of this data?
No, there are always not enough diffused. You know? It depends on sometimes we have had very, very good reports in the medias after publication of some very important scientific articles, especially the one on cancers got a huge media impact after publication. But the good news is that the highest level of expertise in the Ministry of Health take into consideration all our data and some other data that are very convergent, and use that to make the new recommendation. So we're very happy because it is unusual that governmental decisions are really close to science, and also really close to some general interest.
And it's, sorry.
No. So in that case, they did the job. What is unfortunate is that the Ministry of Agriculture, from the same government, is completely out. It's completely not supported transition toward organic agriculture. They are just speaking about agroecology, but the measures supported are very weak. It will last 1 century, to have a transition. So it is completely out of scope, So that's an example that at the level of a government, they should be completely convergent, and both have a sounded information and a sounded and take sounded decision, because we need a transition. We have no choice, we all know that, and as well for health. Look at the health situation. The COVID is a good example. The source is a virus from the primary forest in China, and now all the world is spread with a COVID virus, and this is the responsibility of man, It is not the responsibility of the virus. It is the responsibility of man that destroys the primary forest where lives the virus. It was the same in Africa for VIH, for Ebola virus, and it is always the same, Man is destroying the natural habits and lifestyle of the virus, and the virus spread in humans. So that's clear. We know that for decades. It is not a surprise. We know it is.
Denis, we promise to leave you because you have an appointment now, which is a direct answer to the question of Clara with the Ministry of Health, I understand. So we would like to thank you very much again for your time, for preparation, and for delivering and answering questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, and good luck for your activities.
Thank you.
Bye, Denis. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay. Do we have some final elements to share and to discuss together? Personally, I have one point which is still, if I understood it well, a bit questionable in the data presented by Denis, is that but he says it, when you look at a group of people who are eating organic, they don't have the same lifestyles, which is not only connected on the fact that they are organic, it's also a sociological bias. If people who are buying organic food are a bit different, they have different profiles and level of education, incomes, and so on and so on. And the result of their, for example, less exposure to diseases is not only due to organic, but it's due to their lifestyle, I think. So I don't know what you think about that. Of course, it's a sort of chicken and eggs, if I may say, an organic chicken and eggs issue. But it's still important, because it's not, you will not get the benefit that are stated if you just switch, because if you switch, you will maybe not change your incomes and change the way the place where you are living. If you live in a shitty area, very polluted, then the fact of eating organic will not change the air that you breathe. But that's a minor consideration for me in what we heard. Other comments from all of you, the remaining group?
If I may say something, if I may add something to what you have just said, Francois, is that I completely agree. That's why a cross-sectoral approach is needed to improve people's health. Of course, people won't be healthier if they just eat organic. Eating organic is part of a whole different approach to life and eating, of course. For this reason, here in Bergamo, but also, I mean, many cities are working towards a better education, working on food environments. We can improve access to organic food, but at the same time, we need to advocate to raise awareness and to push people understand. I mean, also make them understand that healthier lifestyles means have a more active lifestyle, eat more, I mean, from scratch food, have the regular dinner, regular lunch, regular breakfast. I mean, we all know what are, you know, the general requirements for a healthy lifestyle. But yeah, eating organic food is one pillar of this pattern, and at the same time, it brings also many benefits to the environment also, as we said, and beyond just the health of people. So I just to say that I completely agree, and we really need to push forward in this. I mean, on this path and promote organic, as said the professor, through the farm to fork strategy. There's a strong focus on organic, and also the promotion program from the European Union. Strong focuses on the promotion of organic food. So that I think that this is the way forward.
Thank you, Davide. No more comments. Shall we close the session?
Yes, I just have one little observation still on the sociological more aspect. I think I agree with both of you, and I think another concern is that recently, with the fact that organic is, especially in the cities, as a consumption partner, in a city context where the production area is not always granted that is visible, is close by, developed as a fashion. And I think like this raised a lot of misconception around organic that became a fancy, as you were saying, Francois, just a fancy product, and even people who would be the kind of targeted people interested in the positive effect of organic, especially on the environment, and to oppose to it because it became something too posh or too fancy, especially in the city environment. And I think this is a counter effect that often limits the discussion. And I found this is a lot in Milan among like people of my same age while discussing about it, and we share the same like background and the same sensitivity towards environment and food. And I see that they have this attitude in saying, no, I'm not, you are the one who goes and buy bio, and so it's super stigmatized at the moment. And I think there should be something that should move this preconception somewhere else, because it could be dangerous also for people who may afford it and who may have the power to feed that system somehow.
Yeah.
So that was just
Julien, you wanted to react?
Yeah, I completely agree. I was talking this morning with a member of the La Madil, so the House of the Alimentation in Liège, and she was explaining that to me. Is what I put in my question, is that a lot of people just see this fancy stuff like elitist stuff, and so even they don't want to do organic food, to eat organic food, because they don't want to be like us, you know, like the bobo, like and so that's a really big question, because we need to work on that to get an impact on all the population.
But I mean, I think that sociologically, I'm not a sociologist, but sociologically, you're talking about a lifestyle. And a lifestyle is, by definition, a style of life. And therefore, if you don't agree with this style of life, which is can be a clothes, fashion, the way of eating, your mobility solutions, and so on. Because in a certain way, you have the positive and the negative effect. The negative effect is what you just both said, is that I don't want to believe to that lifestyle. And on the other end, we can also argue in favor of, against my first question, that when you adopt this lifestyle, you don't only adopt the food, but you adopt the whole lifestyle. Because you, for example, you marry your boyfriend or your girlfriend is from with lifestyles, and we know that there is a sort of positive contamination, if I may say, sometimes in couples, and then you change your whole lifestyles, which will be not only your food but your mobility and so on and so on. But probably there was some 5 years ago a very interesting series of H2020 research project, and the Commission, we took part to one of it. It was called Spread Lifestyles 2050, at the horizon of 2050. And the interesting thing was that the Commission itself, in its research call, pointed that, and it was lifestyles, you see. And the problem is that what we are saying is that organic means one lifestyle, one typical bobo lifestyle. And here it was not on organic, it was generally on sustainable lifestyles, which are also a way of, in a certain way, stigmatizing or characterizing a type of lifestyle. And the idea of this group of project was to diversify the lifestyle, to say you can be sustainable, for example, in being a slow food and community organizers and so on, or you can be sustainable in being quick and executive and single and individualist and so on and so on. So we have probably to diversify the imaginary which is connected with this. You could have, for example, I cannot afford so much health cost, so I am eating organic. So you can have a sort of social prevention. Is I cannot afford. You are rich. You can afford diets and doctors and so on and so on. I cannot afford, so I am eating organic. So that, for example, would be a provoking.
I think also that when I think what was interesting to note in the presentation also, of course, from Denis, is that the health benefits can be seen also if the percentage of organic is not 100%, but it's like it already at 65%, you can have like most of the benefits. And this is something I think it's worth noting and it's worth spreading, because sometimes there's the preconception that you need to be either 100%, either you don't have any of the benefits, and you are throwing away all your efforts by keeping attached to some percentage of the food in a conventional way. And coming back to the lifestyles, I was thinking just of a project I participated to when I was living in Lisbon. There was a kind of like food delivery boxes, and they were collecting non-sellable, but food that could not be sold to the main retailers because they didn't meet the standards. So they were going to the farmers, they were collecting this food, and they were creating food boxes in a free municipal space, and they would make it at 3 euros per 5 kilos, and 4 euros per 7 kilos of vegetables every week. And this was not organic, but I was just thinking, like, if that would have been organic, and the people who were actually participating to that project, and they were purchasing the food, they had their lifestyles, as we are speaking. It was not the classical person that you would see in a Biosebon or any other like supermarket in the city center. But if that, with the same principle, if that project would have served and provided organic food, the people who would have been there, they would have probably been the same. And it was strictly linked to the accessibility of food. And I'm not sure that it would have positively or negatively impacted their lifestyle. So this is, I think, another point that so I think they would have not transformed themselves in bobos if because they were eating organic food, but it was just because it was easy to get it, and it was cheap to get it, and probably it's not even worth to publicize it, to make too much publicity on it. So that was just like something that came to my mind talking about this.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock. We said that we will close the session. It is among the brave who remains at the end. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
And thank you to Clara, who is the real organizer. I'm only talking and talking here. But Clara made everything here. Not only now she's on the back office, on the front office, as a speaker. Thank you to all of you, and see you soon at your place in Liège.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure. We need.
We are preparing it.
Yeah, we will not sleep for 3 days.
We are ready.
Exactly.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Have a nice day. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Francois.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.